Convenience changed the way people spend money, but credit cards changed the way people feel about spending money. And honestly, that might be one of the most profitable psychological shifts ever created, because casinos learned something a very long time ago. People spend more when money stops feeling real. That's why casinos replace cash with chips. You don't hand over physical bills anymore. You hand over colorful little tokens that feel emotionally disconnected from actual money. And the less real spending feels, the easier it becomes to keep going. Now, obviously, credit cards are not literally casinos, but psychologically, they use some surprisingly similar tricks. Delayed consequences, reward systems, reduced friction, emotional spending, constant encouragement to continue. And modern companies understand human behavior extremely well. That's why people will say, "I need to save money," while tapping a glowing rectangle to buy food, clothes, subscriptions, random Amazon products, and things they forgot they ordered 3 days later, because modern spending barely feels like spending anymore. And in this video, we're going to talk about what casinos and credit cards have in common, why spending money feels less painful now, how reward systems influence behavior, why delayed consequences are dangerous, and how modern finance quietly profits from human psychology. Because honestly, a lot of people don't lose control financially because they're stupid. They lose control because modern systems are incredibly good at making spending feel emotionally easy. One of the most important ideas in behavioral psychology is something called the pain of paying. Basically, human beings feel psychological discomfort when they spend money, at least normally. You physically hand somebody cash, your brain feels the loss. You literally watch your resources disappear in real time. That friction matters, because friction creates hesitation, and hesitation creates better decisions. Now compare that to modern spending. You tap your phone for half a second. That's it. No physical loss, no emotional resistance, no real pause, just approved. And casinos figured this out decades ago. That's why casinos are intentionally designed to separate people from the emotional feeling of spending money. Chips instead of cash, digital credits, reward points, free drinks, bright lights, no clocks. The goal is simple: keep people emotionally engaged long enough to continue spending. And modern credit systems do something very similar, because credit cards create psychological distance between the purchase and the consequence. You get the reward now, the pain comes later. Human brains are terrible at handling delayed consequences. That's why saving money feels hard, debt feels easy, and impulse spending becomes dangerous, because emotionally, future consequences barely feel real. One of the smartest things credit card companies ever invented was turning spending into a reward system. Cashback, travel points, miles, exclusive offers, member rewards. Now, obviously, rewards themselves are not evil, but psychologically, they matter a lot, because rewards change how people justify spending. You're no longer just buying something. Your brain starts feeling like you're earning something too. And casinos use this exact principle constantly. Free hotel rooms, VIP status, loyalty perks, complimentary meals. The system rewards continued participation. That's important because human beings love feeling progress, even artificial progress. That's why loyalty systems work so well everywhere now. Coffee apps, airline miles, gaming battle passes, shopping rewards. Modern businesses learn that people spend more when spending feels gamified. And honestly, some people will spend $4,000 to earn a free flight worth $300, which mathematically is insane. But psychologically, the brain focuses on the reward, not the total spending. And the dangerous part is that rewards can make unnecessary purchases feel emotionally productive. Your brain starts negotiating like, well, technically I'm getting points. Meanwhile, interest rates are standing in the corner preparing a fatality move. This is where things get uncomfortable, because credit card companies make enormous amounts of money from interest, not from financially disciplined people paying everything immediately, from revolving debt. And one of the most psychologically powerful concepts in modern finance is the minimum payment, because minimum payments create the illusion that the situation is manageable. You look at a giant balance, but emotionally your brain focuses on the smaller number. Minimum payment due, $42. That feels survivable. The actual balance, way more terrifying. But human beings naturally avoid painful information. That's normal psychology. And casinos understand this too. People psychologically focus on small wins, near misses, temporary recovery, instead of total losses. That's why gambling can become emotionally deceptive. Your brain remembers the exciting moments more than the overall outcome, and credit debt can work similarly, because small manageable payments psychologically reduce urgency, even when long-term interest quietly keeps growing in the background. That's why debt often accumulates slowly, not through one catastrophic decision, but through small swipes, small purchases, small rationalizations, repeated consistently over time. One of the biggest financial shifts in modern life is that money became increasingly invisible. People used to physically interact with money constantly. Cash felt tangible. Now, most spending is digital abstractions, numbers moving silently between accounts, and the less tangible money feels, the less emotionally serious spending becomes. That's part of why online shopping exploded so aggressively. Buying something online barely feels connected to loss anymore. You click, buy now, and your brain gets a tiny dopamine reward immediately. The actual financial consequence, that arrives later. Again, delayed consequences. And modern companies aggressively optimize this process. Saved payment methods. One-click ordering. Buy now, pay later. Auto renewals. Everything is designed to reduce thinking time, because every extra second of thought increases the chance somebody decides, actually, I probably don't need this. And honestly, that's why emotionally exhausted people tend to spend more money too. After stressful days, the brain wants relief, convenience, pleasure, dopamine, comfort. That's why impulse spending usually isn't mathematical. It's emotional. People don't always buy things because they logically need them. Sometimes they buy things because they're stressed, bored, lonely, insecure, or mentally drained. And modern financial systems make emotional spending incredibly easy. Here's the reality most people never think about. Some of the most profitable industries on earth make more money when people struggle with self-control. Casinos, sports betting, social media, fast food, and yes, sometimes parts of modern finance too. Because impulsive behavior is profitable. That's why so many systems are optimized around speed, convenience, dopamine, and emotional decision-making. And again, credit cards themselves are not evil. Used responsibly, they can genuinely be useful tools. The problem is that modern financial systems often rely on human psychological weaknesses remaining predictable, because if everybody spent carefully, avoided debt, paid balances immediately, ignored impulse purchases, a lot less money would be made. And honestly, that's why financial awareness matters so much now, because modern spending environments are incredibly sophisticated. Apps track behavior, algorithms study habits, companies test colors, buttons, timing, and notifications constantly. They know when people spend more, when people become impulsive, when people are emotionally vulnerable. That's not conspiracy. That's modern behavioral economics. At the end of the day, the biggest financial battle most people face probably isn't math. It's psychology, because modern systems are constantly competing for attention, impulse, emotion, and self-control. And casinos understood something long before Silicon Valley did. If you can keep people emotionally engaged, they'll often continue spending longer than they intended. That's why awareness matters. Not paranoia, not fear. Awareness. Because once people understand how these systems influence behavior, they become more intentional, more conscious, more resistant to impulse. And honestly, that tiny pause before spending might be one of the most valuable financial skills left. Because the easier spending becomes, the more important thinking becomes. And unfortunately, modern life is making spending feel easier every year. So the real question becomes, are you making financial decisions intentionally, or are systems making them emotionally for you? And if you made it this far, comment the dumbest thing you've ever convinced yourself was worth it for the points. Anyway, subscribe if you want more videos about psychology, money, technology, and the hidden systems shaping modern life. I'll see you in the next one.